Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda,
And I'm Jessica.
and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by or affiliated with any of the films, movies, TV shows, production companies, distribution companies, actors, anything we talk about, we are not affiliated with or sponsored by. We just really, really, really love reacting and rewatching movies and TV.
And today, what we're talking about is
Perks of
Perks of
being a
being a wallflower.
wallflower.
It's kind of weird to do our old intro.
I know. I was like, do I know it? It's kinda similar to the other one, but a little more challenging.
It was second nature for me. I wasn't sure that I knew it, but it just came out without thinking about it. It does fit into our classic theme of watching things from before because it came out in 2012.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it's nice because it's a little newer than some of the things we cover,
Mhm.
but still fits in that bracket.
Yeah, it came out later, but was still designated for our age group.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a big deal in my dorm. But first, Jessica, before we get into it, do you wanna talk about what you've been enjoying lately?
Yeah. Um, as you guys know, I go to a lot of concerts. Last night, I went to a show. The openers changed last minute. I was really disappointed. However, the new openers that were added on at the last minute are going to be my what am I enjoying because I've already been listening to more of their music today. But it's a band from San Diego that's now based out of Nashville called The Silent Comedy. They were a thing. They toured with like Mumford and Sons back in like 2010, 2011. Then they went on a super long hiatus and came back in 2018. Back with my weird genres. Guys, I don't make this up. This is what the band describes themselves as.
Oh
Like,
my
I'm
gosh.
not making this up.
Mentally
Um,
preparing myself.
yeah. So they're blues honky tonk punk, and that is exactly what they are. The banjo player was headbanging the whole time. He also played a mandolin and was headbanging while playing the mandolin. It was amazing, like, I need to see them again immediately, but if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, if you like, alternative, um, off branches of, like, the folk genre or the blues genre, I think you would really, really like the silent comedy. So that's what I've been enjoying.
Thank you.
How about you?
I'm going to say having hobbies, which I
Again?
no, but kind of, but no.
Okay.
Um, Kind of a tip. I know a lot of people, as they're adults, struggle to make friends, especially if they've moved away from where they went to college or grew up. And what I've personally struggled with that. I typically make my friends through work. But what I did at the start of this year, because I felt like I needed to get out, was I just went on Eventbrite and looked up book clubs. And I found a book club, and it's been a huge part of my social life. I don't have to participate every month, but I usually do just because I want, like, even less than wanting to read the book, I want to show up and like talk to my friends. And now I went to a Halloween party that was hosted by my book club, and I'm in a writing group with them, and we're meeting up outside of those things, and like it's just been really nice to build this little community. So, it's a recommendation for people if you're struggling to meet friends, just like look for a hobby near you. Like, I know people say it, but just like look for a group or a class or something. As adults, we should be able to enjoy things, and you can meet friends who like the things you like.
I feel like a lot of people do that with sports as well. Like if they played a sport in high school and they haven't in years, they'll find like, a local team of people their age that play it, and that's how they end up like building community in their new city that they're living in.
I agree, although I do think sports are a little intimidating because I often find there's this, like, attitude that you have to be really good, and what about us? Like, I played soccer growing up, and I am not in shape now, but what if I wanted to try again?
Yeah, this is also why I can't contribute in group sports because the competitive side of me does not come out when it comes to sports, and people just take it way too seriously. Like, let's just have fun.
I'm
Like,
very competitive,
mm, mm,
but we're getting off on a tangent, so just a quick trigger warning, content warning, we will be discussing if you don't know Perks of Being a Wallflower, it covers everything,
mhm,
and by everything, that we will be discussing bullying, depression, abuse, suicide, both attempts and mention of, sexual assault and molestation. It runs the gambit. So, if any of those topics are triggering to you, this is not the episode for you. This is not the film for you or book for you,
mhm,
unfortunately.
mhm.
That said, let's jump into it.
Yeah. So as Amanda mentioned, Perks of Being a Wallflower is a 2012 coming of age like romantic drama. It was based on the 1999 novel by Stephen Chbosky.
Mhm. And
Uh,
Perks was a semi-autobiographical novel. Stephen Chbosky said that he based a lot of himself into Charlie, but his experiences in high school were a bit different, so there's fictionalizations in there. It's also considered, I thought this was important to note, one of the most challenged and or banned books in the US due to its content of homosexuality as well as rape and molestation and kids doing drugs and having sex and all kinds of things. So a lot of states have challenged it, some counties have banned it, and in an age where more and more books are getting challenged and banned in various school districts. I work with books. It was banned books week a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to highlight, read banned books. They're banned because they mean something.
So the reason there was such a long like gap between, I mentioned he wrote the book came out in 1999 and then the movie wasn't made until 2012 is he always knew he wanted it to be turned into a film and he got numerous offers, but he was very specific that like if he wanted if people wanted to make this into a movie, he wanted to write the screenplay and he wanted to direct it. And so he got that offer. And that's
Mhm.
why it took kind of so long to turn into a film.
I didn't realize that Perks is was his only novel, his only book for a really long time until a few years ago when he published his second book, which was actually more of a horror thriller, and he's done more in film.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes, he also directed Wonder, which was another book to film adaptation. He directed the 2021 Dear Evan Hansen,
Oh,
which is kind
wow.
of funny to think about, like, the one that Ben Platt got all that flack for, and
Yeah.
he wrote the screenplays for Rent and Beauty and the Beast, the one with Emma
Oh,
Watson.
yeah.
So, he's actually done quite a bit in film.
Yeah. And I just think, like, not to get too much off on a tangent, but I wanted to note this because I think it's so important when we talk about like good book to film adaptations or better book to film adaptations. Like, this
Mhm,
is a huge reason why Heartstopper is so good because Alice Oseman has such a huge presence. This film is done so well. It is a really good translation of the book because Stephen had such a huge presence in making sure it was good. So we need to give writers, if they want
mhm,
to be able to be this involved, we need to give them the ability to do so. Because otherwise, we're just setting it up for failure, I feel.
and writers and their agents need to hold on to that IP for the right bid,
Mhm.
for people who will give them creative control.
Yep.
Mhm.
It was filmed in May of 2011 in Pittsburgh, and then it premiered in 2012 at the Toronto International Film Festival, and then it theatrically released the same year in September in the US. Um, it's considered a box office success, had a $13 million budget, it grossed just over 33. It has won many awards, but including the GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Film, a few awards from the San Diego Film Critics Society, 3 Teen Choice Awards, and there's a few others I didn't include in there. Um, but I think more important, Amanda and I identify as millennials, but we are close to this border. This movie is considered a cult classic among zillennials. So kind of that age range of like 96 to 99 is really the true zillennial, but you could expand it to say like 95 to 2000.
Mhm.
It's a cult classic in those age ranges.
Yeah, I remember this film came out the fall of our freshman year of university, and a lot of us went to go see it. My friend at the time and I were really enthusiastic about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
this is one I definitely saw in the theaters.
same.
Yeah.
And multiple people I knew also saw it in theaters.
Hmm. When I mentioned to one of my good friends that I was rewatching this and we were doing a podcast episode, she was like, "Oh my God, I forgot about Perks. I need to go watch that now." And I'm like, I know, it's so good. Sad, but good.
And one of
Uh,
the things I forgot about it was how fucking stacked this cast is.
yeah.
Just felt that, little segue.
Yeah. No. So, getting into our cast, we have Charlie Kalmekis, who's our main character that the film revolves around. He's entering his freshman year in high school. He's kind of the like
He's
kid that no
very
one really
awkward.
pays. Yeah, very awkward. No one pays attention to him. Um, he is played by Logan Lerman, who's known
Mhm.
for Percy Jackson. He plays Norman in Fury, and then more recently, he's plays Jonah in the TV series Hunters. I also see you noted Hoot.
Yeah, he was in Hoot, like, before this, before Percy Jackson, a long time ago, along with Brie Larson, which is another book to film adaptation that was relevant to our generation. Also, he's the internet's boyfriend, one of the
Oh
internet's
yeah,
boyfriends,
yeah.
so he's adorable.
Mm-hmm. Truly,
And he's 31 and he's adorable.
yeah. Now we're going into our still, I would say, main cast. We have a group of friends that Charlie ends up meeting, and we get Sam Button, who's played by Emma Watson. I wrote, does she even need an introduction? But
Right.
as you all know, she is known for playing Hermione in the wizarding movies that we shall not mention, as well as Belle in the 2017 adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, and Meg in the 2019 Little Women. And then also, I didn't know this, she was in Bling Ring.
I love that I love that you wrote this with 2 question marks because that is another one that I'm pretty sure I saw in theaters because she was in it.
Yeah, I definitely saw Bling Ring in theaters, but I think more for, isn't Selena Gomez in it?
No, she's in Spring Breakers
Oh, that's I'm
with Ashley
confusing the
Benson.
two.
Bling Ring was before Spring Breakers, but it's of that similar style. I believe it's by Sofia Coppola,
Mhm.
and it has Emma Watson, Taysa Farmiga, and Evan Peters.
Mm.
I don't remember who else is in it. But it was just like that ridiculous style because it's about like real kids.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely have seen Bling Ring. Yeah.
I do want to note that I think this is the year before Bling Ring.
And then we have Patrick, which is another one of Charlie's friends that's a senior. And he is played by Ezra Miller. We are not going to introduce them and their work. We are just going to note that there are tons of accusations of grooming, abuse, like erratic and disturbing behavior that we don't support in individuals. Um, they've had like multiple arrests for disorderly conduct, harassment, as well as second degree assault, grand felony or grand burglary, larceny, basically just a bunch of stuff that like is not good, does not deserve a place in film and TV when they are distribute, when they are acting this way. So
Yes. And Ezra uses they them pronouns, and from now on, we will only ever be referring to Patrick, the character, and we will be using he, him pronouns. So any compliments that we give, it's for Patrick, who is our bubbly gay best friend and stepbrother of Sam.
yeah, and kind of like the funny, goofy one.
Hmm.
Then we get Mary Elizabeth, who's part of the extended friend group of Sam and Patrick, and she is played by Mae Whitman, who is like a huge voice actor.
I love Mae Whitman. She's a huge actress in general, but she's one of
Sure.
those actresses that you rarely know by name, or at least now a lot of people know her by name, but I feel like 10 years ago, fewer people knew her by name, but you would know her face.
Yes, totally. But I was like so many acting credits. Like of all these people we're talking about, the most acting credits. But if you wanted to
100%.
shout out is tons of voice acting in The Wild Thornberrys, Jungle Book 2, Johnny Bravo. They were the voice actress of Katara in Avatar: The Last Airbender. They were an American Dragon Jake Long. Basically, like every Tinkerbell voice from like early 2000s and on in any form of Disney anything, like video games, commercials, movies. She is the voice of Tinkerbell.
Love that for her. Get those royalties.
Yeah. April O'Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, and then she played Roxy in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Bianca in The Duff, Annie Marks in Good Girls. And then the other thing I wanted to note is she had an uncredited credit of Crying Girl in one episode of Phil of the Future, which
I
is
do think I saw
relevant
her.
to us.
Yeah, I do think I saw her. Also, I love Good Girls. It was a great show.
I never watched it, but when I started clicking and like reading the description. I'm like, dang, this sounds like a show I would love. Like,
It's really good. Recommend it.
yeah.
Next in the list of do they need an introduction, we have our teacher, Mr. Anderson, played by Paul Rudd. And he is the English teacher who used to be a writer who mentors Charlie. And I mean, he's Paul Rudd. He got big as Josh in Clueless. And then Jess wrote a lot of other things down.
Yep.
Nick Carraway in Great Gatsby, David in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Chuck in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Also in a Lonely Island music video.
Weird, right?
Mae Whitman was in a Tegan and Sarah music video.
That feels more fitting.
It
Like,
does.
how
Well, no, because you know Paul Rudd is friends with the SNL crew.
I guess that's true. That's true.
He's also obviously Ant-Man, like,
Mhm,
duh, and is recently he played Ben in Only Murders in the Building.
mhm.
Also, he's just dreamy and he never ages.
Yeah. Next, it's true. Next, we have Candace Kelmekas, which is
Charlie's
Charlie's
sister,
sister.
older
Uh,
sister.
mhm. And she's played by Nina Dobrev, which is like Mia Jones and Degrassi, um, in the Vampire Diaries. So
Yeah, more notably Elena Gilbert from The Vampire
yeah,
Diaries.
everyone. I know her from Degrassi. I never was a Vampire Diaries person.
I've never watched either, but I've seen so much Vampire Diaries like fan content tangentially online. I added because Jess didn't have him in here. Candace's boyfriend, known as Ponytail Derek, literally credited, I think, as Ponytail Derek,
Uh-huh.
is played by Nicholas Braun, who I personally love and adore from my childhood because he was in Sky High, he was in Minutemen, he was in the Princess Protection Program. But if you did not grow up with all of these incredible DComs, you probably know him as like Rory? No, not Rory. Anyway, he's in Succession.
Oh.
He's yeah, he's a very important character in Succession. I've watched 3 episodes, guys. I don't remember his name, but
Yeah, I've watched one episode, cannot contribute here.
he's the like poor nephew that comes to try to get a job and an
Mm,
in with the rich family.
got it.
Anyway,
Next,
next.
we have Charlie's parents. So Mrs. Kalmekas is played by Kate Walsh,
This was
which,
another one that I was like, she's in this?
yeah, I know. I'm going to name off a few, not all of these, but in Kicking and Screaming, in Bewitched, all of
Dr.
our,
Addison Montgomery from Grey's Anatomy and
and
Private
Private
Practice.
Practice. Yeah,
Her spin-off show that was made for her.
yeah, crazy.
Also, The Umbrella Academy, she's really great in that.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to note, which I thought was funny on her credits,
Mhm.
is all of us who have listened to any brand deal on frickin' YouTube from like 2010 know, we all know what Best Fiends is.
Mhm.
She plays the voice of one of the characters in Best Fiends. Like,
Nice.
literally, I'm not even kidding, like 20 credits for that. Like, and I'm like, this is so random. And then we have Dylan McDermott, who plays Mr. Kilmekis. He was Jackson in Steel Magnolias. He played Miracle on 34th Street, was Bobby in The Practice, also in American Horror Story in 4 different seasons. So another very like you would know his face.
Yeah, I mostly know him from the first season of American Horror Story. Also a meme, but that's fine.
Okay.
Dr. Burton, who doesn't have that long of a role, like less than Ponytail Derek, still important to note because it's freaking Joan Cusack.
Yeah.
Who, like, again, you know her. She needs no introductions. She's from 16 Candles. She voiced Jessie in Toy Story 2 and 3. She's in The School of Rock, Chicken Little, Confessions of a Shopaholic, Sheila in Shameless. Apparently, I've never seen Shameless. Jess
Oh
is
my god.
making faces like she loves it.
I love Shameless. The moment she went on screen, I went, "It's Sheila."
I first knew her from this. There's a rom-com starring John Cusack where he's like a hitman for the government. Maybe for the government, maybe not. Maybe a private hitman. And she's like his boss.
Hmm.
She's in a lot of like 80s and 90s movies.
Mhm.
Anyway.
A ton.
And then I also wrote down, because this was so random, she's credited as like Susan or something. I think she has one line in the beginning of the film, but Julia Garner from Ozark and Inventing Anna is in this very briefly. I saw her face and I was like, Anna Delvey is here?
Yeah, it's a stacked cast. Like super stacked. Especially for the budget.
It took us 24 minutes just to get through all of the cast. We weren't even going to read all those credits, but we did. Anyway, let's get into the film.
Welcome to 90s Babies Nostalgia, guys. This is what we do. The movie. It opens up with Charlie writing in his journal. And he's talking about, it's the first day of high school. He's really nervous. He's not sure what to expect. He had a really hard year the previous year. And while he's at high school, we kind of see him meet Patrick, who ends up becoming one of his friends in woodshop class. You kind of see that Patrick's like the goofball character. He's impersonating the woodshop teacher.
They don't actually speak in this woodshop class, but
No,
Patrick is there and he's outgoing and he's funny, and Charlie's
drawn to him.
yes. Charlie, on the other hand, is getting bullied at school. His sister is a senior and not commingling with him. And so he goes to a football game, which is a big deal here, and he sees Patrick and Sam. Well, actually, he sees Patrick. Sam's not there at the time, cheering, and he like slyly moves up the bleachers to sit across from him and starts talking to him. And I'm so proud of him for talking to him. And Patrick's like, "Hey, you're in my shop class, right? Thanks for not calling me nothing," which is a thing we'll talk about later. But so then he meets Sam and they all go to a diner afterwards and become friends.
Mm-hmm. And then they drop him off at home, where we see Charlie walk into the house and he kind of overhears fighting. So he goes to see what's going on and he sees Ponytail Derek and Candace fighting, and he sees Derek slap Candace. Um,
Mhm.
and Derek walks away. Candace chases after him. He kind of sees them like reconcile what happened. And so he's like, "What are you doing?" Um, And so she puts the blame on herself and says that she egged him on. And so we kind of see Charlie processing all of this happening to his sister.
And throughout this film, we get indications we've already got an indication that he had a rough year before. He mentions things through narration, but this is the first time we get a flashback or mention really of his Aunt Helen and how she always chose the wrong guys as well. And his sister's like, "No, that's not me."
Mhm. At homecoming, Sam and Patrick are tearing up the dance floor. Charlie is standing by himself along the wall. But we see him as he's watching Sam and Patrick like gain courage to like slowly get out on the dance floor and join them. And it's a very sweet scene.
Yes. And then they go to an after party at Bob's, and Patrick goes off to do his thing and and leaves Charlie with their friends. And immediately Bob is like, "You look like you need a brownie." And Charlie's like, "Oh, thank you. I'm so hungry." And he gets stoned out of his flippin' mind to
Mhm,
where we cut to him just sitting on the floor and everyone's asking him questions and he's just saying what he thinks. And they're like, "Wow, this kid's a weirdo. He's hilarious."
mhm,
But he's normally so quiet, which is why it's important, and then Sam comes and finds him, and she's like, "Really, guys?" And asks him how he's feeling, and he says, "I just really want a milkshake." So she makes him a milkshake because she's a good friend, and while she's
mhm,
making him a milkshake, he just casually mentions that his friend killed himself last year.
mhm.
Awkward.
And he says that Sam's still making the milkshake. He's like, I need to go use the restroom. He goes upstairs. As you do when in a house when you're unfamiliar, he's just like opening up doors trying to find the restroom.
Mhm.
And he walks into Patrick and Brad making out, where Brad's like the popular jock at school.
Yeah.
He promises not to tell anyone. And in this moment, Patrick and Sam end up having a conversation where Sam's like, "Hey, Charlie just shared with me that he lost his best friend last year. Like, I don't really think he has any other friends." And so Patrick initiates a cheers with everyone in the room to their new friend Charlie. And he does this little cheers where he's like, "You see things and you understand you're a wallflower." And that's kind of the theme of this group, is they all kind of identify as an outcast in some way or form.
Yes. I don't know if this is I think it's around this time that we also get Welcome to the Island of Misfit Toys. Anyway, we'll get into our quotes later, but yes, they're all outcasts. After this, Sam and Patrick go to take Charlie home, and they're driving down the highway, and a song comes on, and Sam's like, "Oh my god, this is the perfect tunnel song.
Mhm,
We have to do it." And so they start driving through a tunnel. I'm blasting the song, and she gets into the bed of the pickup truck and stands with her arms out. And
mhm,
Charlie's like, "What the hell?" And Patrick's like, "Don't worry, she does this all the time."
mhm,
And Charlie's just enamored watching her be like the most alive person that he's ever seen, basically.
mhm,
And this is what we call the tunnel song. They don't know the song. It's the first time they've heard it in this moment, but they reference it a lot.
mhm. And they're trying to find what the tunnel song is. Like, they wanna know what it is because they wanna listen to it again.
Because we, like, skipped over this, but they bond over music. There's, like, 1,200 mixtapes in this movie. Anyway,
Yeah.
we then get a montage with Charlie's narration because the film mirrors the book in that he's writing it as letters anonymously, and so we're, like, the recipient from his perspective.
Mhm. He's officially in the friend group. He looks forward to lunchtime. You kind of see a lift in his like outlook and on life and his mood. He's developed a mentorship with his English teacher, Mr. Anderson, who is a writer. And then he also shares with us that, like, Patrick opened up about Brad and him and how, you know, Brad only made out with him when he was drunk and would ignore him when he wasn't. And he helped Brad become sober, but Brad has to keep it a secret because his dad would kill him if he found out. So it's this whole, he shares this story about Brad and Patrick. And then he
Mhm.
also opens up that he has a crush on Sam.
And one of the other things that we learn in that narrative montage is that Mae Whitman's character, Mary Elizabeth, she has a zine about Rocky Horror. So cut to Rocky Horror picture show, the shadow cast, where we have Patrick as Frankenfurter and Sam as like Magenta and what's her face? Oh, we just did this. Janet. Uh
Janet.
yes, they're all in it except for Charlie, who is watching his friends be the shadow cast. And then at the after party, which is at Craig's, this is the first time that we meet Craig. I think it's at Craig's. I think this is the first time we meet him. He's Sam's college boyfriend. People are talking about their SAT scores. Yeah, it is at Craig's for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
And how well they did, and Sam didn't do so hot, and so Charlie offers to tutor her.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then we see Sam dancing with Craig.
Hmm.
Christmas!
It's Christmas, and the friend group does a Secret Santa exchange, and Patrick gets Charlie and gives him a suit because all of the best writers have a suit, and there's this very cute scene of him trying it on and everyone like looking at him and him feeling like a little bit of eyes on him, which is not always the case for Charlie.
Yeah, he also breaks the rules of Secret Santa because he got Patrick, but got everyone else separate gifts as
Mhm.
additionally, and they all felt very seen, and he gave Sam a record by the Beatles.
Mhm. And then she invites him up to her room, and in her room, she has a gift for him, and it's a typewriter. And she tells him to write about them. And then in the scene, she opens up about being sexually abused when she was 11 by her dad's boss. And he mentions in the scene that his aunt was too.
Mhm.
And Charlie opens up to Sam about not having his first kiss yet. And so she kisses him because she's like, the first person who kisses you should love you. And so
Mhm.
she kisses him, and they both exchange I love yous too after that kiss.
Mhm. But she does also preface with, "I know you know I like Craig."
Yes.
It's also Charlie's birthday on Christmas Eve. That's why she got I think that's why she got him the typewriter. Patrick
Oh.
No, Patrick gives him the clock as, like, "You probably don't get a lot of presents because your birthday's Christmas Eve." And Charlie's older brother came home from college, and they have this cute little heart-to-heart where he's checking that he's okay, and Charlie's like, "Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. I rarely get visions, and when I do, I can just, like, shut them off." And we have still been seeing, like, little flashbacks, but it's sporadic and brief. Then we get this Oh, he says he wants to ask Sam out at New Year's. That's fine. Yeah. We get this incredible transition where his family is at communion and they put the wafer in his tongue, and then it cuts to him at a New Year's party and it's acid, and it's just, like, so funny.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. And so they're at New Year's, they're at this party, and he is having flashbacks um, of the night his aunt died in a car crash. And we see the Beatles record in the passenger seat, and we see him pass out, and the cops find him. And Charlie's parents are worried, and he admits that he was seeing things again, but he does not mention that he was on acid.
No. And I do think at this party we learn, like, immediately we see Sam and Craig making out, which is why he doesn't ask her out. Just felt the
Mhm.
need to say that. Yeah.
Yes.
Then we, go back to Rocky Horror. Craig bailed as Rocky. Go figure, he sucks. So Charlie has to sub in. And he has fun. Cut to him and Sam singing "Touch Me, touch it, touch it, touch me,"
Mhm.
Creature of the Night. Hot. Mary Elizabeth then asks him to Sadie Hawkins because she was like, "You were cute in your Rocky costume," which is just like tiny little briefs. And he goes to Sadie Hawkins. Craig does not go because he wouldn't go to a boring little high school dance. And then afterwards, they go to Mary Elizabeth's house, which is really fancy, where she's like, "Let the wine breathe," and puts on mood music. And they start making out, and she starts taking her dress off. And then she says, "I can't believe you're my boyfriend."
Mhm.
And girl, he can't believe it either, but he don't say nothing.
Nope, he just goes along with it. He does not speak up. And after dating for a while, like we get little, them together at lunch and things like that. You can just tell like Charlie's not into it. He's over it at this point.
We have like a ruthless narration of how over it he is.
Yeah. It's like kind of mean, but also like, dude, speak the fuck up then.
Mhm.
Um, and we see them at another party. They're all playing truth or dare, and he is dared by Patrick to kiss the prettiest girl in the room. Which, if you followed social norms and cues, you would kiss your girlfriend. However, he kisses Sam.
Immediately.
Yeah. And
Eh,
this causes obvious drama and tension in the friend group. They all have been friends for so long, and Charlie is a newer friend of theirs. And so Patrick is like, hey, I think you need to stay away for a while. Like, you really fucked up.
He also says, "You didn't know, but there's history there between the two of them."
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. 2 weeks later, like, we just cut to 2 weeks later, and Charlie is not doing well without the distraction of his friends. He is not feeling great, and he witnesses in the lunchroom, Patrick gets tripped by one of Brad's friends, and they call him nothing, and Patrick tells Brad, like, "You're just gonna let them do that? Like, you're not gonna speak up?" And Brad acts like he doesn't know what's going on, and then he calls him the F word, and at this point, Patrick throws a punch, and he and Brad get in a full-on fight, which, like, crazy, I can't imagine getting in a physical fight with someone that I love, but,
Yeah.
they do, and then because Brad's a football player and he's popular, his friends who are also big football players all have Patrick, like, held down and are beating the crap out of him. And so Charlie sees this and cut to they're all like Patrick's on the floor and the football players are beat up and Charlie looks at his hand and it's bloody. He completely blacks out, doesn't remember it, but Sam tells him that she saved her brother and now he is let back into the group. All he had to do was some incredible Hulk strength fighting.
Correct. Um, then we see Patrick and Charlie go on like a little adventure together. Um, and they're kind of like sitting by a river, I feel, or some sort of body of
They're in a
water.
park.
Yeah.
They're in the hookup park.
Oh, okay. And Patrick shares a story of what happened with Brad, and that like Brad's dad walked in on them making out, and that Brad's dad started beating up Brad, and that Patrick just kind of left and he felt some guilt for walking away. And then we
Mhm.
get this maybe you can provide more context because I don't remember the specifics, but we get this scene where Patrick kisses Charlie,
Mhm.
but then apologizes.
Yeah, he just says, like, "Why can't I be with a nice guy?" Something like that, and kisses him, and then immediately apologizes and then cries in Charlie's chest.
Hmm.
It's kind of a weird moment, but it's meant to be sweet. It happens in both the book and the movie.
Now we're at the end of the school year.
Time flies.
Yeah. I was gonna say when you're having fun, but honestly, not a lot of fun going on in this movie.
It's
Everyone,
so fun.
yeah, sure. It's a lot of partying, but
Mhm.
also just a lot. And so everyone gets into their colleges. We find out that Craig had been cheating on Sam this whole time. And Sam kind of asked Charlie, like, why didn't you ever ask me out? Which I feel it's very unfair of her to put on him, but we don't need to get into that now.
Mhm.
And they end up hooking up, and this brings more flashbacks of from Charlie of his aunt.
Yeah. He's kissing Sam, and then she touches his leg, and we get a flashback to his aunt, and it's murky. But Sam, I think, got early acceptance to Penn State. She seems to be leaving pretty early in the summer. And so this was the night before she left while they were packing. And then the next morning, he says goodbye to her and Patrick as they drive off. And he's just rapidly deteriorating on his walk home. He is having more and more flashbacks and spiraling about his Aunt Helen.
Mhm.
And we can infer from this that she did molest him as a child, and he calls his sister, who's at a pool party with her friends, and says that their aunt's death was his fault because, as we've seen multiple times in this flashback, it was Christmas time and she told him, "I'm gonna go get your present, wait for me here," while he was on the sidewalk, and that's when she got in the car crash, was while getting his present. So he says that it's his fault that she died because she was getting his present, and his sister immediately, like, covers up the speaker and tells her friend to get the cops to her house, and it's implied there might be a suicide attempt. He looks at the kitchen knives and remembers scars on his aunt's wrists. And then we cut to him in a psychiatric hold where we get Dr. Joan Cusack. Um, Basically saying like he said some stuff in his sleep and he needs to start saying it out loud and let her help him.
Mhm.
And then he stays there for 2 months.
Mhm.
Yeah. But he grows. He
He
learns. He
grows.
comes back. There's a sweet scene with his family having dinner. And then
Yep.
Patrick and Sam show up on his very first day and ask if he can come out to play.
Yep. And Sam is very excited to share that she has found the Tunnel song, which is Heroes by David Bowie. And so they go in the tunnel, and Charlie crawls out into the truck bed and he does the arms out through the tunnel that we got from the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, and he kind of decides to start participating more, being involved more.
Yeah, it's sort of the whole thing is written as anonymous letters in a journal or to maybe the friend that died or someone we don't know. And he's decided, I'm not going to write too much more because I'm going to live.
Mhm.
And that's perks of being a wallflower, baby. Any overall thoughts?
It's just a really, really good film. It is sad, it is heavy, but it is like so well done. Such a good watch. I honestly hadn't watched it in years. Um, but I've seen it many, many times. And I think it's one that you kind of forget about until you like see it pop up like on a streaming service or anything like that. And you're like, oh, I should watch that, you know?
100%. I know I saw it in theaters. I think I might have seen it 1 or 2 other times around the couple years that it came out, but I haven't seen it in a good long while. And I did read the book before I saw it in theaters as well. So I know the story fairly well because I think that imprinted on my brain a little bit stronger. But I watched this in 3 sessions, okay? Because we were going to record this yesterday. So I started watching it in the morning and then I had a Zoom with a friend. And then I watched a little bit of again before another Zoom with a friend last night, and then this morning as I was getting ready for work, I watched the last 10 minutes,
Oh
and
my God.
even though I watched it in 3 different like, chunks and while doing other things, I still almost teared up at the end. Like,
Hmm.
it's that kind of film, and also, I'm one of those people that doesn't cry at sad shit. I don't cry when you find out about the aunt, I don't cry about, like, the molestation or the suicide. I cry at the end when he feels infinite in the truck, like, uplifting moments like that. That's my
Oh,
shit. Oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. I literally was, like, in my notes app, I was like, "I hate this stupid film, why am I almost crying?"
Yeah. I feel like because in that moment, you feel that he, like, almost feels whole again or is on his way to feeling that way, and it's such a, like I don't know, it's such a strong feeling that it does evoke emotions in you while watching, you know?
Mhm. Do you have any funny memories about this at all?
No, I know I read the books, but no, I don't have any, like, funny memories about it.
I know I read the book the year it came out, the film, um, but before I saw the film, and I know my friend and I went to go see it in theaters, like, the day it came out, and then I also remember my roommate in college saw it in theaters a couple weeks later, and she wasn't sure about the aunt. She was like, "So wait, what did his aunt do?" Which I thought was interesting because it is quite, like it's shown in a way that's tasteful and
Sure.
implied.
Sure. But I would argue that one is more obvious, like, implication of what the ant did because you get the, like, squeezing of his thigh,
Don't
and
wake
then
your sister.
yeah, and well, you get it, like, in real life, and then you get the flashback with the ant, and so I feel like the implication is pretty strong
Mhm.
there, that it's pretty easy to infer. However, with the suicide attempt, I would say that that is, like, not as obvious.
Mhm. Yeah. I wasn't sure that I had caught that before. It was
Mhm,
watching it this time that I for sure picked it up. But the
mhm,
book is also the same as the film in that everything is heavily implied, but
mhm.
not outright
Explicit.
said. Yeah,
Mhm.
like, even when they're talking about Sam's experience, she doesn't say she was molested or sexually assaulted, she says that her first kiss was her dad's boss when she was 11.
So awful.
Yes. But not awful, let's talk about some of our favorite moments.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that what I have listed here, like, my favorite moments, but I do have to talk about them because they made me laugh. Charlie eats that pot brownie like it is the best brownie he's ever had from a luxury bakery. Like, you would know if a pot brownie has pot in it.
I want to defend him
Okay.
because I had that space cake in Amsterdam and I did not taste weed at all.
Really?
It just tasted like chocolate cake. It was so good.
Ooh.
Now, I don't think teenagers are making pot brownies that good, but they are doing a lot of drugs, so they might have perfected it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they might, like, know someone who's really good. I guess that's true, but, like, I don't know. I feel like most edibles that I have had, you can taste.
Mm. Maybe he
There's
just thought they were a little weird and he didn't wanna be rude.
Yeah, maybe. I had still am finding it hard to believe, especially if it got him that stoned. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure this is Charlie, but Charlie at one point mentions that we all know that marching band is not a sport. Lies. Lies, 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 lies. Marching band is most definitely a sport.
I did not catch that at all, and I was very amused to find this note of yours.
Cause like, what what do you mean? Like,
I
of
guess
course it's a sport. It takes breath control, you're walking, like, it is a sport. You
it's
have to
definitely
practice every day.
athletic.
I would say it's a sport.
And they do get Letterman jackets. I would say drill team is a more obvious sport,
Sure.
but I get where you're going. It's a very athletic activity.
Mhm.
People definitely downplay it. Like, those kids are strong.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to shout out, just because, like, I think this is the perfect representation of, like, what senior high school pranks should be. Because, like, relatively non-destructive, pretty, like, nice in nature, but hilarious. Patrick, as his senior prank, paints all of the woodshop tools like a light pink.
Pastel pink.
Yeah,
Yeah. He
it's
just
very
paints
cute.
all of them because that woodshop teacher sucks.
Oh, yeah. And then I
And
would
then
say, like, Oh, no, go.
Oh, I was gonna say that you put a big note about the soundtrack.
Yeah. This soundtrack, I would say, is, like, just as memorable as the movie or notable as the movie itself. Like, you can get the Perk soundtrack on vinyl. Like, that
I think it would be worth it too, because it's a lot of older songs that are more
Totally.
have heavy instrumentals.
Totally. So the film's set in 1992, so the playlist was really supposed to be one reflective of the book because um a lot of the mixtapes and things noted in the book do translate over to the film. And so it's supposed to be very like nostalgic retro music. And so if it's taking place in the 90s, that's why we get a lot of 70s, 80s hits in there.
Mhm.
We get the Smiths.
A
Um,
lot of the Smiths.
a lot of the Smiths, but most notably at the beginning, you hear "Asleep" by the Smiths. You get "Teenage Riot" by Sonic Youth. You know that song, you think you don't, you do. Um, you get some Air Supply, and then, of course, we noted "Heroes" by David Bowie.
Mhm.
I also wanted to note, because I thought it was very interesting, a lot of the songs from the book are the same in the movie, like, Stephen made a effort to do so. However, he felt the need to mix up the tunnel song. So in the book, the tunnel song is Fleetwood Mac's Landslide.
Which is such a different vibe. I love Landslide. One of my favorite songs, love
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac. I can't imagine that as the tunnel song.
No, I think his right, and he says like his choices, he needed something that felt more cinematic, and just Landslide was not it. And Bowie felt a little more boisterous, um, like it would translate to film better. And so I fully think he made the right decision to switch the song for the film.
Mhm.
But very interesting because not similar really at all.
I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna piss you off. I've never chosen to listen to David Bowie. I've I'm not consciously aware of any of his music, but this song is probably the first song that has made me really want to potentially delve into that. Like, yes, I know he's an icon and incredible, but
Mhm.
this song just, like, makes you feel things.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially it makes you feel things in general, like if you're just to listen to the song, but really in the way that it's presented in this movie, like I can't think of like a more iconic like movie to like a music to film moment match because it just works so well. Like you can feel how she's feeling in the car with this song watching it.
I can think of one that is comparable, and I don't think you've seen it.
Oh, okay.
It's in Fly Away Home.
Oh no.
It makes me cry every time.
Oh, I love that.
Uh, okay. Also, yeah, I just have to point out the sheer volume of mixtapes in this movie. Music is a huge part. A b Charlie clearly has PTSD and is I almost wondered he felt a little, like, ASD coded, but I don't know if that's the representation of the PTSD. But from the beginning, Ponytail Derek gives Candace a mixtape, and she gives it to Charlie because she's like, "He makes me one every week."
Mhm,
And that's how he learns about the Smiths, and then he uses that music he, like, studies it.
mhm,
Literally. He's like, "I'm trying to be like a normal person," so he starts listening to all of this music, and, like, that's how he bonds with Sam and Patrick, and then from then on, it's like everyone's giving everyone a fucking mixtape all the time.
mhm, mhm.
There's just it's absurd, but that's fine. It was the '90s.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that is true. Like, I don't know. I would make mixtapes in well, not mix CDs, but I would make, like, CD mixes and give them to my friends in, like, middle school and high school, so, like, it doesn't feel unrealistic.
Yeah, actually, in middle school, my friend had LimeWire, and I didn't want to use it, so she would burn CDs for me all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also want to call out this incredible scene in the Mary Elizabeth
So good.
montage where He's on the phone with her and he's talking about how she calls after school every day when he just got off the bus and he has nothing to talk to her about. And he, at one point, puts the phone down in his room, walks off to his mom, and his mom is like, "She's on the phone right now. Charlie, you have to break up with her." And he comes back and picks up the phone and she's still going. And she
Mhm.
has not noticed that he was not there.
Well, and then she has the audacity, he does try to get off the phone and, like, end the conversation, and she goes, "Charlie, you know I hate when you interrupt me." It's
I
like,
know.
he hasn't even been listening this whole time.
You haven't even let him speak.
Yeah.
I also wanna, like, just mention that I think the sibling relationships are done really well between Charlie and his older siblings because they don't feel close, and in the books, there's actually a lot more tension
Mm,
between them. But the way that they don't feel close, but they still look out for each other feels quite sincere and a bit
mhm,
realistic. How his brother checked in on him in the holidays, and then especially when he calls Candace, and even with just those couple of words that the first like sentence that he utters, she knows that he's in trouble and gets the cops over to their house. I just really loved that scene.
mhm,
And I did find this interesting fact that I'll kind of summarize. I didn't know it until today when reading that apparently on the DVD of this film, there's some deleted scenes that were filmed from the book and didn't make it into the final cut, including there is a whole storyline that I completely forgot about. Still don't remember reading it, where Candace and Charlie's relationship gets more strained after the ponytail Derek incident,
mm.
and she ends up getting pregnant and Charlie goes with her to an abortion clinic,
Oh my god.
which was filmed and is on the DVD but did not make it into the final cut.
Whoa.
Do you wanna go into things we don't love as much?
Yeah, I didn't write down the lines, I don't remember them, but in the beginning, Sam makes, like, multiple comments/jokes about bulimia, and it just felt very 2020. I don't know, it felt weird.
It's She says something, it's not initially about bulimia, but
Uh-uh.
the word that she says kinda sounds like bulimia,
Bulimia.
to where Patrick says she's passionate about or something, so then she jokingly shouts, like, "I love bulimia." It is
Mhm,
I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It hits weird, because you
mhm.
know it's a joke, but, like, why is that a joke?
Yeah, that's how yes, yes, agreed.
Mhm,
It is said in a humorous manner, but I'm like, I could do without this whole line.
mhm.
Um, I also kinda mentioned it when Sam kisses Charlie so that he has his first kiss by someone who loves him. I don't love I didn't love that.
Why?
I felt like it was very, obviously, there was consent, it's not like Charlie wanted to kiss Sam, but I just feel like it was almost like her way of being like, "I need to be your first kiss, it, like, can't be someone else," like, I don't and he was younger, I don't know, I just don't I felt like there was a power dynamic there that I
Mm.
didn't love.
I do sometimes feel like the friend group talks to Charlie in a way that is patronizing.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll be like, "Do you understand?" And I don't love that, and I think that connects with that, like, slightly icky feeling. Like, it's
Mhm.
supposed to be romantic, but it is a little bit weird, especially because she's still with Craig and still wants to be with Craig.
Yeah, that's I think it would be different if, like, her and Craig broke up and they were hanging out and this conversation came up and there was a natural way that they both decided, "Let's kiss each other," like, he's like, "Oh, I have feelings for you," and then, like, "So glad you're single now," and then they shared a kiss. But in this sorta dynamic, because she was in a relationship, she knew she was unavailable to him, but still then chose to kiss him. I
Like,
didn't love it.
holding out hope. How did you
Yeah.
feel about them, like, kissing at the end?
Oh, cute as hell.
Okay. I similarly to you with that, generally feel weird. Like, I watching this when it came out did not feel weird about it, but now it feels a little bit weird how this friend group is entirely seniors and 1 freshman. Like, as a senior, I was friends with some freshmen who were in my art class, but they didn't go into my friend group, and, like, that I don't know, that's just a really big difference between, like, 17 and 14 and 18 and 15, you know?
Yeah, I feel like in high school I had a lot of friends of like mixed ages. So I feel like
Mm,
that is kind of normal for high school, but I agree the one thing that feels off is it's not like they have like two seniors, a junior, a few sophomores, and a freshman. It's like all of them are seniors and then they just kind of adopted this freshman.
'cause they felt bad for him,
Yeah.
and also that I think what makes it weirder to me is that both Sam and Mary Elizabeth kinda date him, which I being friends is one thing, I can't really imagine dating a freshman as a senior.
Yeah, it feels icky.
Yeah. And also, I can't imagine a senior girl being interested in a freshman guy. Usually it's the other way around, which is
Yeah.
definitely like sexism and patriarchy, but
Mhm.
it's still, I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Agreed.
The other thing that's kind of weird is Emma Watson's accent. And the reason I pointed out that this one was before the bling ring is because I think that her accent gets a little bit better the more she does American films.
Mm.
But it's not great. And that was definitely, like, my biggest gripe when it first came out was, like, because I was a huge fan of the films that must not be named, and I loved her, and I still love her, but I was like, "Girl, I wanna support you, but what is coming out your mouth?"
Mhm.
Did you catch it? Like, did it feel weird to you? I felt like she, like, slips in and out a bit.
Yeah, she slips in and out. She definitely lets her natural accent come through when she's pronouncing certain words. And I think that
Mhm.
is just natural when you have an accent. Sometimes it's hard to pronounce certain words in a different, like your natural accent just comes out. You can't pronounce it without having your natural accent there. More I think it just sounds like a really bad American accent. Like
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
very clear that she's putting on an American accent.
And while, yes, it can be hard to put on an accent, she is a very rich actress at this point when it comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And because the other films are almost done. That's how
Yep.
rich she is. There are dialect coaches. There are tons of British actors who do incredible American accents. Look at Millie Bobby Brown. She switches in and out of the 2 accents just based on who she's talking to. So
Mhm.
that's all I'm gonna say on that, I think.
Mhm.
Also, this film has some really great quotes. It
Yeah.
also has some not so great quotes. So I wrote some in the things I don't love, and then we'll get to the quotes that we do love. Because as many great quotes as there are, it kind of feels a little bit stilted, a little bit like Steven Chbosky's just like trying to create a bunch of idioms and phrases that can go on Tumblr and Instagram.
100%.
So some of the ones I didn't love, "You have such pretty brown eyes," the kind of pretty that deserves to make a big deal of itself.
Mhm.
It's great, no 14-year-old boy would ever say that,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to congratulate you on being happy because you deserve it. I do like that one a little bit. It just it became too much.
Mhm.
And then Patrick saying, "My life is officially an after-school special,"
Mhm.
because he says it like he just I don't know. I don't know. Didn't like it. Did
Mhm.
it feel like too much to you? Felt like too much to me.
Those didn't bother me like they bothered you, but I get it. I think where you get into the too much, which is ones that of course we had to note that I just wrote under quotes we love.
Mhm.
Um, but I would argue the most notable quote from the movie is also a little too much. Um, which is why do nice people choose the wrong people to date? And it's we accept the love we think we deserve. And this quote comes up multiple times. If you look up memes about the movie, this quote's everywhere. You know the quote. Um, that also feels a little too much. I don't think it's false.
That one feels a little too much. I consider it the best quote. It is the most iconic quote, as you said,
Yeah.
and it comes to you from the teacher, not a 14-year-old. He says
Mhm.
it, and then Charlie repeats it to Sam later,
Mhm.
and a part of why that came out was because Chbosky was writing through a breakup at the time. I think to me, it's like I accept that as the important quote, and if I only have that, I'm happy. I don't want every other line to feel like it's also trying to be that quote or be as profound as that
Mm.
quote, because that's
Mm.
not how people talk. Every once in a while, we have gems of wisdom, but and I get that it's a film, but we don't all talk in these, like, meaningful phrases all of the time.
Sure, and it would be a huge red flag if someone did, because it's
Yeah,
like, are you are you real? Like,
they start to, like, lose their meaning a bit.
yeah, totally.
I'm being a hater. There are a
Mhm.
lot of great quotes. I think "We Accept the Love We Think We Deserve" is a great quote.
Yeah. Another one that I think is fun that I think comes from Mary Elizabeth is kind of towards the beginning where Charlie is getting introduced and welcomed into the group. She does welcome to the island of the misfit toys.
Mhm. One of the fun ones that also is gross, at the very beginning when we're first introduced to Patrick before Charlie has spoken to him, he is impersonating the shop teacher. The shop teacher comes out and is like, "You have freshman shop as a senior. Are you proud of yourself?" I don't understand what freshman shop is, by the way.
Yeah.
But
It's very
y
confusing. It's like what they just have a woodshop class for just freshmen.
mhm. He calls Patrick something, I don't remember what, but it's not his name. It's something a little rude, and he says, "Either you call me Patrick or you call me nothing." And his teacher says, "Okay, nothing." And that perpetuates a whole year of bullying as everyone calls Patrick nothing. But I liked the "Either you call me Patrick or you call me nothing." It's really fucked up that a teacher said, "Okay, nothing," though. Like,
Fucked up, but not unbelievable.
I would report a teacher for that.
I would hope so.
Maybe the 90s are different, but I would report a teacher for that. That's some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Um, Also in the diner when Charlie says he might wanna be a writer, they say he should write about them, and Patrick says, "Call it Slut and the Falcon,"
Mhm.
which is fun.
Yeah.
Uh, while they are in the another cheesy quote that I accept. While they are doing the tunnel, both times Charlie says,
Mhm.
"I feel infinite."
Mhm.
And I kind of really love that.
I love that quote. Yeah. I would actually that's probably my favorite quote from the
Yeah,
movie, even though it's not the most iconic.
it's up there.
Mhm.
It's like, "I feel infinite." I didn't mean to be quoting it. I meant to be saying, "I feel infinite," as in the word infinite.
Mhm.
Perfectly encapsulates a certain feeling of being able to do anything or be anything.
Mhm.
It's just it's a great word.
Mhm. It's a
And
really good quote.
then also a hilarious moment is,
I
Charlie
loved this moment. I'm glad you included it.
for Secret Santa, Charlie asks his dad, "Can I have $30?" And his dad, without skipping a beat, says, "$20, what do you need $10 for?" And then gives him a $50 bill. But it's just so funny that he's, "Can I have $30? $20, what do you need $10 for?"
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. So good.
Such a good film. I'm so glad that we covered this. This was like a last minute decision based on what we could do strike-wise,
Mhm.
and I love that it brought this to us.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a fun film. It's so good. I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Unless any of the content sounds too much for you, then don't go watch it. But yeah, it is really good. And this is rounding off our fall um content. The end of
Mhm.
our fall content. We decided to classify this as fall because it's loosely fall.
It's got that, like, warm nostalgia that I associate with fall.
Yeah, that's when my friend called me and interrupted while I was watching it She's like, "Oh, I have to go watch that." And I was like, "Yeah, we're doing it as part of our fall content." I was like, "Well, it's not really fall, but we're counting it." And she goes, "It has the vibe of fall." And I was like, that is true.
Exactly what we decided, yes.
Yeah.
And I would say, obviously, it's sad and it covers a lot of serious topics, but overall, it is uplifting because he hits
Yes.
rock bottom, but then grows from it. Like most of the film feels like a puzzle that you're piecing together what his trauma is about and who these people are, and then they learn to grow and choose to live fuller lives from
Yeah.
their trauma.
Yeah.
Which a lot of the beginning very much feels like Charlie is not living at all, and Sam and Patrick are the most alive people
Yeah.
in any room ever. And he and there's a balance to be found in that, but, yeah, and there's a lot of funny moments, a lot of heartwarming moments, so I do think it's a really good balance between the happy and the sad.
hmm Do you have any other thoughts?
No, it's just an even better film than I remembered.
Yeah, I agree. Rewatching it, I was like, God, it's so good. So, so good. Um, Up next, we're kicking off our holiday content. We both really enjoyed doing the Halloween playlist for our spooky season. So we're gonna bring it back, and we're gonna do a holiday playlist episode for you guys next. Other than
Yeah.
that, follow us on all of our social media, Instagram and YouTube at 90s Babies Nostalgia, spell out the word 90s. We are also on TikTok, but use numbers there. And rate and review wherever you watch the podcast, Apple, Spotify. Reviewing really, really helps us, so would appreciate if you rated and reviewed.
Yes, please and thank you. And aside from that, we'll we'll talk to you later. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
90s babies nostalgia.